Hello and hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing? So I feel like over here in America, growing up and, going through the education system over here, learning about World War II, they try to make it pretty black and white. They try to just say, there were the Nazis and then there were us and everybody over here in America, all the politicians, all the companies, every person, anti-Nazi. But that's just not the case. It's just not the truth. And I know for a fact that some U.S. companies collaborated with the Nazis. And that's just part of the story. You know what I mean? But I think that's fascinating and a fascinating thing to learn about. Because the world is never as black and white and good versus bad as they try to make it out to be. So today, I searched up a video about, what companies were involved with the Nazis. And I found this one by the Infographics Show, linked down below. So I'm going to react to this. I'm guessing a lot of them are American companies. So that will be interesting. Let's go.
Would you buy products from...
Sorry, I had the audio messed up. All right.
From a company that collaborated with the Nazis during World War II? What if
No, never.
company paid reparations or started a foundation as a way to apologize for the mistakes of the past? Or what if the company refused to
That would be something.
apologize or admit they did anything wrong? Would you still buy their products? We're about to look at
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what a lot of companies did.
several companies that had ties to the Nazi Party or profited by selling products to the Nazis during World War II. All of these companies are still around today, and we can almost guarantee you own one or more of their products. Let's find out which
Probably.
ones. If you've ever taken a picture
I'm
using
looking at my desk like, there's probably something on my desk.
old school film, you've probably bought a product
Like a product on my desk that was a company that supported the Nazis. Probably. I don't know. My desk is very messy.
from Kodak. For decades after World
Kodak.
War II, Kodak kept a sinister secret from the public. They had been Nazi collaborators during the war. Kodak had subsidiaries in Germany and across Europe. Even as Germany's bold aspirations for world domination grew in the 1930s, Kodak kept healthy business relationships with the Nazi Party. After all-out war broke out and the United States joined the Allies, the U.S. government mandated that companies could no longer do business with Axis nations. This was a problem for many companies operating internationally.
I will say Kodak, I almost don't even think of Kodak as still existing, to be honest. I'm looking up their stock price. Are they a public company? What does Kodak do these days? Obviously they made a lot of camera stuff back in the day. Yeah, that's a slow trend away. I don't see them being relevant anymore. But that is fascinating. Kodak.
Kodak being one of them. Kodak allowed their German branch to become more self-sufficient, and eventually the Nazis took control of it. However,
Oh,
Kodak
wow.
took things one step further to make a profit. They began using their subsidiaries in neutral European countries, such as Switzerland, to continue doing business with Nazi Germany. The subsidiaries in
What?
Europe continued selling photographic equipment and electronics
So even Switzerland, the neutral the country, the one that is just like, we're staying out of it. They had businesses doing business with the Nazis. Damn. American businesses.
to the Nazis on behalf of Kodak. This meant that the Kodak Corporation was directly providing technology to the Nazis and making a profit off it, all while hiding these facts from the United States government. The heads of the Kodak
Well, you know what? I'm never buying anything from Kodak again. I don't think I was anyway. But now I'm definitely not.
company justified these actions by citing the massive profits they were bringing in. Worst of all, the German branch of Kodak used over 250 slave laborers from concentration camps. After the
Oh my
war,
God.
Kodak reclaimed their German subsidiary and collected the large profits made by the slave laborers during the war. Kodak ended up paying $500,000 into a fund which provided reparations to families of people who worked as slaves under the Nazi-controlled subsidiary.
500,000? Why even, okay, was that the minimum you could possibly have paid?
But the company never actually apologized. Volkswagen is clearly a German word, and it probably doesn't surprise
Well, everybody knows Volkswagen was started during the Nazis.
That the company
Nazis started it.
had ties to the Nazi Party. However, what might surprise you is that the company was actually started by the Nazis. Adolf Hitler himself laid out the precursor to what would become Volkswagen. The idea for the company started with Hitler wanting to create a car for the common man.
This is extremely well known. At least I think it is. The most surprising thing about this to me is that it worked. Like, it's still a profitable company to this day. You know, usually like state planning, central planning doesn't work that well. But the Nazis somehow made these companies that actually were, profitable.
A people's car, and this is how Volkswagen got its name. Volks meaning people and Wagen meaning car. Hitler hired Ferdinand.
How did I not know Volks meant people?
And Porsche
People car.
to develop the car. This initiative was where the classic Volkswagen Beetle got its shape. But the new head of the organization, which would eventually become Volkswagen, had bigger plans. Porsche insisted that the company also make military vehicles to support the Reich. The most influential of these vehicles was the Volkswagen Kübelwagen, which was a light military vehicle often seen in World War II movies, carrying around SS and Nazi officers. It had a boxy body and a tire mounted on the hood. During the time period that the Nazi parties controlled Germany, more than 15,000 slaves from concentration camps were used to build the Volkswagen cars. The company even helped build the Arbeitsdorf concentration camp near one of their main factories to ensure a steady supply of slave labor was available. In 1998, under pressure from human rights organizations, Volkswagen agreed to create a fund that would benefit.
Well, why are they giving this money to an American? You get it? Because he's fat.
In 1998, under pressure
Bad joke.
from human rights organizations, Volkswagen agreed to create a fund that would benefit the victims and their families that were used as slave labor. Other companies benefited from large profits gained by working with the Nazis in a different way. Several companies were started or acquired by wealthy individuals whose fortune started with the money made from dealing with the Nazi Party.
You know, when you think about it, this stuff runs so deep, it's almost like no wonder there's so many companies still around. Because on one hand, you might be like, I can't believe these companies are still, still around, still going, still profiting. On the other hand, it's like, well, this was a world war, and it's like every company was involved. Not everyone, but so many huge companies were involved. They all just kind of said, okay, we're just going to pretend that never happened.
For example, the Ryman family, who owned JAB Holdings,
I don't know what that is.
profited greatly from Nazi abuses and slave labor. You might be unfamiliar with JAB Holdings, but you probably know the companies they own, such as Krispy Kreme,
No, not the Krispy Kreme.
Panera Bread, and Pret a Manger. These companies were all created post-World War II. However, their financing was partly provided by JAB Holdings, which unfortunately means they profited indirectly from the atrocities of the Nazis.
Okay. All right.
When this information was made public, the Ryman family said they were planning to donate around $11 million to suitable organizations. Coca-Cola
I like how it's when it was made public. They're like, dang it, you figured it out. Okay, we'll donate some money.
is an American company. People around
Coca-Cola.
the world associate Coke with being
I
American.
love Coca-Cola.
When you think of the soda, an image of American families or friends enjoying an ice-cold beverage probably comes to mind.
And of course, there's also something to be said that the people running these companies are no longer the same people,
However, the
unless they're old as dirt.
Coca-Cola Company had ties to the Nazi Party during World War II. The drink line Fanta, which includes commercials of people happily dancing to upbeat music, was actually created for Nazi Germany. As the Nazis came to power in 1933, Coca-Cola was making
Okay, that's a little weird that that Coke still sells Fanta. They made it for the Nazis?
enormous profits in Germany, selling their products under the leadership of Max Keith. He made the Coca-Cola brand more appealing to the German citizen, which resulted in a boost in sales. He also knew how to market the product in a way that would make people around the world want to buy Coca-Cola. During the 1936 Berlin Olympics, Max Keith made sure everyone in attendance had as much Coke as they could drink. As the Nazis prepared for war, they started to limit the
I feel like Germans are too healthy these days. Do you guys even drink Coca-Cola? Like, to be drinking Coca-Cola. I can't imagine that. I feel like you guys don't do that. Maybe I'm wrong. I love Coca-Cola first, just so you know. So I'm I'm not judging you if you do drink Coca-Cola. Not at all. I love Coca-Cola. But I feel like you guys are more healthy than me.
The amount of foreign goods coming into the country. This included Coca-Cola syrup, which began to hurt the company's profits. So
we can't have the profits be hurt.
the sneaky Coke executives used a third party to open a dialogue with Hermann Göring, Hitler's second-in-command. They convinced him to allow the import of their syrup. To boost sales even further, Keith began promoting the Coca-Cola company as pro-Nazi in Germany. His plan was to reach out to the Hitler Youth and win over the younger generation of Nazis.
Oh my God. By any means necessary, they're going to sell as much Coke as possible, huh?
And this worked for a time.
They're really like, I mean, I guess that's something about capitalism is it's, you know, sometimes it's not just amoral, it's immoral in that they really don't care. Like the businesses, corporations just don't care. They're just trying to make profit. They'll say anything. Sell it to anybody who wants to drink Coke. Holy crap.
But as war broke out, restrictions on imports became stricter again. Max Keith had a new syrup created in Germany using local products. This new soda became Fanta, based off the German word fantasy, which means imagination. In 1941, when the United States joined the war, all official contact between the Coca-Cola company and Max Keith's German branch was cut off. Keith continued to sell his supply of actual Coca-Cola syrup to the Nazi Party members and marketed the Fanta drink to the German public. The German people quickly fell in love with the drink, and Keith continued to make large profits for the Coca-Cola company. After the war ended,
oh my God. People love Fanta over here. It's still very popular.
Coca-Cola took back control of their German branch. They even reinstated the recently convicted Nazi collaborator Max Keith as its leader. The profits made from the German branch during the years of the Nazi regime were funneled back into the main company. If you're into high-end fashion, then you might be surprised that one of the most successful fashion companies in the world has deep ties to the Nazi Party. Hugo Boss.
I'm not into fashion, so I might not even know these people.
Set up a fashion label in Germany 2 years before. Deep ties to the Nazi Party. Hugo Boss set up a fashion label in Germany 2 years before the Nazi Party came into power. Even before the Nazis gained control of the country, Hugo Boss was a Nazi collaborator. The company itself had produced early Nazi uniforms in their factories. In 1931, Hugo Boss made it clear where his allegiances lie when he officially joined the Nazi Party. He became a sponsoring member of the Schutzstaffel and made monthly donations. Hugo Boss and his company created many uniforms for the Nazis and made large profits on outfitting their soldiers. The company also produced uniforms for the SS and Hitler Youth. In order to keep up with demand, Hugo Boss had been employing slave labor from the concentration camps. It was reported that the company used 140 slaves from the camps and 40 prisoners of war from France to make their products. The worst part was that many of these workers were either worked to death or later sent to Auschwitz or Buchenwald to be sentenced to death. After the war, Hugo Boss was tried and convicted for being a supporter and beneficiary of National Socialism, and his right to own a company was taken away. The company continued under Boss's son-in-law, Eugen Holy. In 1999, the company finally agreed to pay into a fund that was set up to compensate former slave laborers. If you've ever had a headache or needed relief from pain,
well, isn't that nice?
You may have taken an aspirin. Bayer, the company that makes the pain reliever, may have one of the darkest histories when it comes to collaborating with the Nazi Party. In the 1930s, Bayer was part of a company called IG Farben. It was a conglomerate made up of several chemical companies in Germany. As the Nazis swept through Czechoslovakia, IG Farben worked closely with the party to capture chemical factories to be used by the corporation. The chemists who worked for Bayer and were employed by IG Farben later went on to create Zyklon B, the gas used in concentration camps to quickly kill large numbers of Jews and other people the Nazis labeled as undesirable. IG Farben also heavily used slave labor from the same camps they provided Zyklon B to. It was a very messed up relationship between the Nazis and IG Farben. They built a factory next to Auschwitz where they would use the prisoners their product would later kill for slave labor. As the war came to an end, IG Farben was forced to dissolve. The directors of the company were put on trial for war crimes. Unfortunately, justice was never served, and Fritz Tamir, who was the director of operations at the IG Farben facility at Auschwitz, became the president of Bayer after the war. In 1995, Bayer apologized for their role in the Holocaust. If
it took them long enough.
If you're watching this video, you most likely are using a device that has components built by IBM. The company,
IBM
International Business Machines, has been around.
I guess that's not, that makes sense. I mean, back in those days, yeah, they were a big deal. You know what I mean? They were one of only a few companies, I guess, maybe the only one making these kind of parts that everybody needed.
Around since 1911. In 1933, the president of the company, Thomas Watson, traveled to Germany to oversee an IBM factory being built there. At this time, IBM was using a subsidiary called the Almag to do their work in Germany. IBM's subsidiary had been hired by the Nazi Party to carry out a nationwide census. The census itself was designed to identify populations of ethnic groups that the Nazis found impure or undesirable. This included populations of Jews, Gypsies, and any ethnic group that would dilute the Aryan bloodlines of the country.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they were actually pretty deep into it. IBM, the most vanilla company ever.
IBM supplied the Nazis with punch cards and a sorting system that would make it easy for them to identify, locate, and track any people that they'd later sentence to death. These same machines and cards were later converted and used to coordinate the trains bringing people to the death camps across Nazi-controlled territories. IBM's come a long way since punch cards, but at the time the technology was bringing in massive amounts of money for the company. IBM continued to conduct business with the Germans even after the U.S. joined the war.
What? Even after the U.S. joined the war? That feels criminal.
IBM continued to conduct business with the Germans even after the U.S. joined the war. High-ranking members of IBM falsified data from their European subsidiaries to make sure they could smuggle in punch card materials and devices that were in high demand by the Nazis. For IBM at the time, the Nazi business of killing was highly lucrative. During World War II, Nazi Germany was IBM's largest territory after the United States. Now many computers and electronic devices use parts created by IBM. The crazy part is that up to this day, IBM has not apologized for their complicity in the Holocaust.
Holy crap.
A company's main purpose is to make money, but at what cost? It's important to never
at any cost, apparently.
Forget the past so we don't repeat the same mistakes. Collaborating with the Nazi Party and being complicit in the atrocities they carried out during World War II is a steep price to pay to make a profit. Now check out oldest.
Damn. The infographics show just exposing all sorts of corporations. That's wild. Don't ask a man his salary. Don't a woman her age. Volkswagen, what they were doing between 1933 and 1945. Good one. Why do people not know that the Volkswagen was largely manufactured in Germany? I don't know how you wouldn't know that. Walt Disney, heavy breathing. Oh, really? Walt Disney? I mean, I know there's like Mickey Mouse cartoons that were like propaganda about the war, but there must be a lot more to it. Damn, that's crazy. I kind of wonder what you guys think about that. Like, you know, obviously there's a huge amount of guilt and regret in Germany and in your guys' culture about the Holocaust. But it's fascinating that there's a lot more people to blame and that were in on it than just people in Germany. You know, companies, huge companies here in America contributed to it all. I think that's fascinating. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.